record it?
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, it's actually live
Now
on
you missed my
YouTube.
great fish story. Now I'm gonna have to tell it again. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody needs to hear that fish story recorded. It's fine.
Yeah, so guys, welcome to, oh, Tracy, I may not have told you this, but this is the last community session of 2021, and we're so honored that you're closing it for us. Yeah, so we're so excited to have Tracy. Tracy has been our friend and supporter since, I think, since we started, and this has been long overdue. We've been planning to invite her for the longest time, and it's such an honor to have you, Tracy. And today, Tracy is going to talk about her cybersecurity journey and what it's been like for her. And please feel free to ask questions if you have any. So yeah, Tracy, take it away.
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer questions like while I'm talking. So please, I have the chat box up. So please ask away because I want this to be, fun and interactive. So it's 11:12 in the morning here. So good morning, good evening. I'm Tracy Mayleaf. I'm also known as the Infosec Sherpa. And here in America, it is Thanksgiving Day today. So I try to dress festive. I'm wearing oranges and browns and things like that. So I'm trying to be festive. And as I told Laura, I have not begun consuming any alcoholic beverages yet. I just have coffee. So I've had a lot of coffee, but I'm thrilled to be with you here today. Yes, I've been a supporter of She Hacks Kenya for a couple of years now, however long you've existed. And that's, speaking of Thanksgiving and being thankful, I am thankful that the African InfoSec community has, welcomed me as an advocate and a supporter and a friend. It means so much to me, and I just want to, help level the playing field in the world for all of us to be successful in information security. So I'm really thrilled to be with you here today. And even though it's a holiday here, this is actually great because then I don't have to worry about missing work or anything to chat with you. I can just, chill and have fun. And as I mentioned to Laura, when I'm finished speaking, I'm going to put the turkey in the oven. So let me see. So a little bit about me. So I am from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. If you're not that familiar with US geography, Philadelphia is basically in between New York and Washington, D.C., if that helps anyone. I'm fairly new to information security. There may be some of you on this call who've been in information security or tech longer than I have. 2016 is when I quit my job, and I'll get to that in a second, and decided to pursue a career in information security. So let me, back up a second and say that, yeah, I don't have a technical background, but I have all these other what are called transferable skills that I utilized to move into information security. So I'll get into that more in depth in a minute, but that's something I want you to take away from this. Is I want you to think hard and reflect of what transferable skills you have to offer in information security, and you might be surprised. You might not realize to make connections, but let me talk about my journey, and we can get into that in a little bit. So yeah, I was a librarian for 15 years. I have a master's degree of library and information science. And, I loved being a librarian. I like helping people. I like doing research. I like organizing information, things like that. But I had pretty much reached every, place that I was able to go in that world. I felt like I was too young to have hit a ceiling. And the next steps for me were to become a library director. And I didn't really want that. That was more, hands off of all the research. It was more just people management. And that's just not what I wanted. So what I did was on December 31st, 2014, it was New Year's Eve, I declared 2015 the year of my career. And what I decided that night was I was going to make the year 2015 like a walkabout. I was going to figure out, what I wanted to do with my career, what interested me. I would try things out. So January 1st, 2015, I sat in front of the television, and, on New Year's Day here in America, we have football games and parades and things like that. And I sat in front of the television and worked on my resume, updated my LinkedIn profile, and just really tried to, brainstorm of what it is that I wanted to do. Because I had read an article on the train when I was commuting back and forth to work. It was an article called How to Future Proof Your Career in 2015. Now, this article still holds up today, despite, the year in the title of the article. But it was about, you know, how to make sure you're not out of a job. And that was something that was weighing on my mind of I want to make sure that I don't have to worry about losing a job because of maybe having outdated skill sets or things like that. So one of the tips in that article to figure out, future proofing your career was figure out what you like to do. What skills have you done in past jobs that you really enjoyed? And it said, think back past, through all your past jobs. And I did. And I realized that whenever there was any tech component or tech aspect um, to a job that I had, that really interested me, whether it was, fixing a printer or I had this one job where I found this whole back channel email system that nobody knew existed and I found it and figured out how to use it and all this stuff. I always enjoyed that tech aspect. So that's when I thought, okay, let me dip a toe into the tech world and see if I like this. So I went to all kinds of meetups, I went to all kinds of classes. Um, and I quickly realized that coding and programming wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. And I mention this is because I don't want people to be afraid to fail at something or not like something. That's not a problem. I mean, it's fine to go into something and realize, you know what, I really don't like this. And then what you do is you back up, back up out of there. So, true story, I paid about 25 US dollars to attend a Ruby on Rails programming class. It's a programming language. I walked up and left out after maybe like 15 minutes of the class because I thought to myself, I never want to do this. And I didn't see that as wasted money. I saw that as, helping me confirm that I didn't want to go through that. So it was fine to let go. Like I didn't see myself, I had a little bit of a thought of, don't be a failure, don't quit, just stay through this class. But realistically, it's like, I don't enjoy this. This isn't resonating with me. Um, it was fine for me to leave. So I'm sharing that part with you too, is don't be afraid to fail or don't be afraid to have the realization, I don't like this, and just back out of it and try something else. So there's no problem in that. That's just, you don't learn unless you fail. So that's, and again, I want to be cautious about using the word fail because I that sounds like harsher, but it's fine to realize that you don't like something. That's totally okay. And I feel like I saved myself a lot of grief rather than trying to chase down all these coding classes. I was like, okay, you know what? That that more in-depth front-end development stuff, that's really not for me. So I went to all different kinds of meetups. I set up all different kinds of news alerts because I wanted to see the different kinds of articles that came out of the tech world. And I found myself constantly clicking on all the cybersecurity related articles. So then I pivoted from that and made security sort of my quirky hobby. It started to become like a hobby of mine. Um, and then, fast forward to a friend of mine went to the Black Hat conference. Hopefully, you're familiar with the Black Hat conference. It takes place in, Las Vegas every year. And at that conference, there was a group called Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu, which, like She Hacks Kenya, is, a women centric group trying to help women get skills and information and support about careers in information security. So I sat through their two-part workshop of cybersecurity fundamentals, and they had me at port scanning. I was like, wow, what, all these skills are amazing. Where's this been all my life? So that's when I really had the mindset of like, okay, I like security. I like the back end things, the back end part of tech. This is great. So keep in mind, I was still a librarian, still doing my day job at the law firm library while I was doing all this, like I said, as my quirky hobby. So September of 2015, I reached out to the chief information officer, the CIO of the law firm, and I asked, what is the law firm doing next month, which would have been October 2015, for Cybersecurity Awareness Month? To which he responded, what's Cybersecurity Awareness Month? So I then took it upon myself to create this whole presentation for him of, this is what Cybersecurity Awareness Month is. This is what I'd like to do for the firm. I came up with this 5-point plan of weekly emails to the firm with infographics, with, an image that has facts and information on it, about cybersecurity practices, like, the perils of free Wi-Fi and, phishing emails don't be a great catch were some of the themes I came up with. And I sent it to the CIO. And before I hit send, I remember thinking, to paraphrase Taylor Swift, this is going to be forever, or this is going to go down in flames. So it was, it was the kind of thing where, this was going to go well or it wasn't. And I was prepared for either outcome. And fortunately for me, the outcome was that the CIO loved it. He said, this is great. We're going to do this, and you're going to be in charge of it. Now, remember, I was still the law firm librarian doing this and taking this on. So this is also what I mean as a side note when I tell people that even if you're not in a security role, you can still be a security advocate within whatever role that you currently have. You need to start somewhere. And yes, it can be difficult to get that first job in cybersecurity. So you can start by being a cybersecurity advocate yourself, and make security your quirky hobby and incorporate that into what you do. Because that's just going to help get you experience, meet other security people, and eventually can, bridge that gap that you need to get into working full time in security. So we did the program in October 2015. November 1st rolled around. I emailed the CIO and I said, that was fantastic. I loved it. It seemed to be well received. He said, I agree. This was great. You did a great job. And I said, oh, okay, super. So I was trying to lay the foundation of a bridge. And I said, okay, so what else can I do for the firm in regards to security? And his response was, well, you can do this awareness program again next year. Sad trombone, womp womp. That's not what I wanted to hear, right? So that's when I had tasted the blood of security and wanted more. So that's when I started to formulate my exit plan to quit my job, start my own business, which I had named Sherpa Intelligence. And my goal was to work as a freelancer and to gain knowledge and experience and exposure to the information security, cybersecurity world, so that I could eventually transition and have, a cybersecurity job. Some people say that it was brave. I think it was probably a little bit more insane. But a lot of planning and thought went into this, because I, had a house, I have a husband, I had a good job. So the other thing I want to note about this is, especially if you're a career changer, like you need to plot this out. You need to care, to plan things. And that's not a bad thing, going into a career change or just going into a career. It's always good to have some sort of plan. So January of 2016, I quit my law firm job. And a couple weeks later, I was on a plane to San Francisco, California, because I was able to get a company to hire me to do some work for them in San Francisco as a part of the RSA conference, which some of you may know. I think it's the world's largest cybersecurity conference. It has something amazing like 40,000 attendees or something like that. And I'll remember this was 2016, before the pandemic, when people could gather and all that. So it's a very large conference. So that really basically kicked off my next year and a half of being sort of like a journeyman. Like I was, doing freelance work, either research related or social media, and I tried my best to work with cybersecurity companies, and go to cybersecurity conferences, and I took classes, and I studied, and I learned. I listened to podcasts, and I watched videos, and I just immersed myself in it because this is what I wanted. And again, this is the plan that I had, was let me, absorb everything, because I was realistic. I knew that I couldn't just jump from library job into a cybersecurity job. Like, I knew that that wasn't equivalent. So I was trying to skill up. Now, this is where mhm. Hi, can I please get links to the so Faith asked if she can get links to freelance cybersecurity jobs. I don't have any links for that. That was just me hustling. I started my own company, and your question is good timing, because this is what I'm going to talk about: transferable skills. So what I was able to do was, I was able to sell my transferable skills of all the research I knew how to do as a librarian, all the social media management experience that I heard. So they weren't cybersecurity jobs in content. They were more cybersecurity adjacent. So I was doing research projects for cybersecurity companies, or I was doing social media management for cybersecurity companies. So I hope that helps to answer your question, Faith. Like I said, it wasn't. Like I said, I was adjacent to cybersecurity, and I did that intentionally to make sure that I could, make a name for myself, and also get to understand who all the players are in the field there. So basically, I spent a year and a half doing this freelance work before I was able to get a full-time cybersecurity job. Now, to some people, that seems like a really long time, a year and a half. I was prepared to have it go longer. So another tip that I like to tell people when you're either changing careers or starting a new career is to set different time markers for yourself. And this could be any increment of time. You could have a time marker that says, okay, if I don't get any valuable leads or hits on my CV in a month, that I'm going to maybe change things up on my CV, or create a secondary CV, or I'm going to change something. Or for me, I had short-term and long-term goals, and one of the long-term goals was, if I didn't have any solid job leads by December 31st, 2017, my husband and I were going to consider relocating to another city, because I kept seeing cybersecurity jobs. Again, keep in mind, this is pre-pandemic, and remote jobs weren't as plentiful, especially not for entry-level folks like myself. So that wasn't really an option at that time. So we were prepared to move house and move to another city where there were a lot of cybersecurity jobs, so that I could get into this field. So that was a major time marker that I kept my eye on. And then I had, lesser time markers, these flags that I would have. And these either could be physical flags, like a note on my calendar, or just inside my head. And the good thing about this is they can also be moved. If you can move them as you need to, but some of them you need to make sure that they're more permanent. Like the one I gave myself, the ultimatum I gave myself about December 31st, 2017. Because I didn't want to just languish forever job hunting and not ever have any leads. I needed to make sure that there was, there were some dates in mind of, okay, some major action needs to take place. So I just kept doing this freelance work, going to conferences, or getting hired by companies to go to conferences to do social media for them on site. And again, the whole time I'm still learning and just immersing myself in Infosec. So finally, and this is where the power of networking comes into play. And I mean networking with people, not with computers. You need to have a strong human professional network. Have people younger than yourself, older than yourself, people in other industry, people who are in other industries or other parts of security or other countries or other, we're just very diverse, and a very diverse human network can go a long way. So this is how it helped me. So one day in 2017, it was in the spring, I received, oh, sorry, spring for me would have been April, sorry. Would have been April 2017. And um I received 4 rejection emails in one day, 4. Uh and I just exasperated. I reached out to an infosec friend that I had, and I said, his name was Joe, and I said, Joe, what do I have to do just to let someone talk to me? I want someone to talk to me so that I can explain to them all these skills that I have. And his response was, I can't believe no one has hired you yet. Do you mind if I post about you on social media? And I just shrugged. It was just, thought it couldn't hurt. Sure, go for it. So he posted a tweet about me, and it was something funny like, I can't believe how many people have hired, Infosec Sherpa yet. What's wrong with you? Here's her LinkedIn and all this. About 20 to 30 minutes later, I got a direct message from the man who would eventually become my first cybersecurity boss, who said, oh, I've been following you. I didn't realize you were looking for a job. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you. 2 weeks later, I had an interview. Uh, and then after my interview, uh, this man actually stopped by a conference to watch a talk that I co-presented with someone, and had me, meet him at the bar afterwards, and was like, yeah, let's do this. That's kind of paraphrasing how all that happened, but basically, yeah, it was through a human network that I was able to get this job. So then I still had to go through the interview and win them over at the interview. But that's why the importance of a human network is so good, is because they can help boost things for you. They can help answer questions for you. And also, I always tell people, if I don't know something, there's a chance that I might know someone who does know the answer to that. So those secondary and tertiary connections are very important as well. So let me give you some kind of more of a practical context for this. If there's a specific company that you want to work at, go to LinkedIn, see which one of your connections works there. If you don't have any direct connections who work there, see who are secondary and tertiary connections, because LinkedIn will fill that in for you. And you can try and go about it that way by connecting with people. So, again, if you're looking at a specific company or a specific industry. So then let me talk a little bit about the interview, because there's a couple lessons out of this as well. So I go for the interview. It was May of 2017, and what I didn't know that morning when I woke up was that was going to be the day of WannaCry. If you all remember the WannaCry cybersecurity ransomware that happened, it shut down the NHS in the UK, and you're all familiar. Uh, you're all familiar with that incident, I hope. So as I was driving to the interview, I was listening to the news, because again, we didn't, at the time that morning, we didn't know yet it was called WannaCry. We didn't know much about it yet, but we knew something was happening, knew that the NHS was all tied up. So I remember thinking to myself, if I were me and I was interviewing myself today, I would ask me to name 3 ways that I would, remediate this situation. So I practiced my answers in the car as I was driving there, while I was listening to whatever news was coming over the radio about it. And we go through this interview, and sure enough, the last question was, so there definitely seems to be some, cybersecurity incident happening today over in England. And I am not joking. The interviewer said to me, name 3 things you would do in this situation. And I was so proud of myself that I anticipated that. And when I said, when I said my answers, I was all prepared to go. My very first answer, they stopped me, and the two interviewers looked at each other and it said, "Oh, we didn't even consider that." So I was able to bring a different perspective, to this situation. And they asked me to expound upon the first piece of remediation that I gave them. And they were like, "Okay, all right, yeah, no, right, you're right. Yeah, we hadn't thought of that." Um, so I got the job, obviously, but I like telling that story because I want to stress the importance of, again, of one, a personal network in a professional network is just invaluable, and it's something you need to grow. You think of it like a garden, like, or like farming. You need to cultivate it. You need to check in with those folks periodically. Don't be the kind of person that keeps going to the same person all the time for the same thing, because if you do that to the soil, you're not going to get really good crops anymore, right? You're going to deplete all the minerals and nutrients from the soil. So you need to have a variety of crops and a variety of people that you go to ask for things, so that you're not going to the same, person all the time, or going to the same well, and you want to use up all that, you don't want to use up all that water. um and you also don't want to neglect anyone for too long. If you haven't been in touch with someone for a long time, and then you really need, a favor or a question for them, why should they help you? Like, "Oh, I haven't heard from you in years." Why should I should help you? So they have to keep, just the same thing with like a farmer and their crops. You wouldn't neglect a whole crop and then expect it to yield results for you, right? So, I'm trying to give you some analogies of different ways to think about this. So that's how I got my first cybersecurity job. I was just a cybersecurity analyst in a SOC, a security operations center. And I was very grateful for the training, because what they told me during the interview, because I was trying very hard during the interview to explain all my transferable skills, all the research skills I have, all the information organization skills I have, all the people skills I have. And they said to me during that interview, "We can teach you the tech. They said, we can't teach someone all these other skills that you have." So that's something that I talk about a lot, because companies also need to be willing to train. And that's a harder nut to crack, but it's something that I'm trying to keep alive and out there, of, you need to be willing to train. And that's what this company did. Now, remember I was talking before about, I did all this career change to cybersecurity because I wanted um, career stability. I say this as I'm on my third job in cybersecurity now. So what I didn't anticipate was a corporate reorganization at the first company. And I found myself out of a job, but it was okay because I quickly got another one afterwards, which to me, that's more the stability factor as well, right? Having the skills and the ability to, even if you do have to change jobs often, that it's a little bit easier, to find a new job if you already have these skills, and transferable skills or newly acquired skills, and confidence in the ability to, sell yourself as a good employee. um, I think it would have been a lot harder for me to job hop as a librarian, because there weren't as many jobs, and a lot of things were being downsized, and that's what I was worried about. So I then worked for the New York Times. Again, it was basically in a SOC type of atmosphere, security operations center type of deal, and I enjoyed that. Uh, but I also wanted a new experience, and that's how I wound up at Krebs Stamos Group, where I am now as a security researcher. So, and this current position really marries well, all my, transferable librarian skills, along with all the technical skills that I've learned. Um, so I'm finally in a place now, a couple of years, 5, 6 years later, where I'm in a position that perfectly marries all my skill sets. So since it is Thanksgiving, I'm very thankful for that. Um, and I know I probably made it sound easy. And yeah, believe me, there were some nights when I was scared. I thought, did I make a huge mistake? And there were times when I was taking my Network Plus class. I used to drive 3 hours each way in a single day. So I would drive 6 hours every Saturday for 6 or 8 weeks, I can't remember now, so that I could go attend in person a networking, computer networking class, because that's how bad I wanted it. You know, I made that sacrifice, and the whole time I was in the car, I was listening to cybersecurity podcasts or cybersecurity books on tape, or I would just pull up a YouTube video that was discussing, you know, subnetting, and I would listen to that as I was driving. It's miraculous that I didn't like fall asleep at the wheel because subnetting is not the most exciting thing to listen to. But you have to want it. You know, I talk a lot about transferable skills, and I want to be careful with that because I've noticed some folks seem to think transferable skills into infosec means that you don't have to do any other work. That is not what I mean at all. I just mean that you can harness things that you already know and apply them to a new industry and a new career. Um, so let me talk about, you know, transferable skills some more. So if someone tells me they've only ever worked in fast foods, they've only ever worked at McDonald's, and like, oh, I could never be in cybersecurity. I've only worked at McDonald's. Well, I think about that and I go, well, there's customer interaction. So that would be your end users. Work under pressure, right? People are hungry. There's peak times, right? At a fast food restaurant or any restaurant. Multitasking, you know, you have to make sure that, you know, check on the fries, check on the burgers, check on the nuggets, you know, things like that. Do the red, uh, you know, you're going to have to multitask, do different things. Um, you know, you have to expect the unexpected. What if a bus pulls up with 50, you know, kids on a school trip, and they say, okay, we need, you know, 50 burgers right away. You have to compensate for that, right? You have to figure that out, troubleshoot, problem solve. Um, so you know, those are all skills and thinking, analytical thinking and mindsets to have that apply to cybersecurity. So I don't want anyone to ever think like, you know, I I only ever worked, you know, making French fries. I can't do this. You can. I'm not saying that you just show up and say, I only have McDonald's experience, hire me to be a SOC analyst. That is not what I'm saying. But you do need to put in the time to learn the tech, because again, the tech can be learned, but a lot of these other organization skills and things like that can't necessarily be learned. There are some people that can't handle working in fast food because it's too rushed and you have to think on your feet a lot, and that's just not a skill set some people have. So I'm just saying is that you do need to dedicate yourself to learning, uh, you know, to understanding the technology, but you just, you know, think of it as a cake. You know, the foundation of your knowledge is going to be the cake. You know, your technical knowledge, you know, any coding that you want to learn, any subnetting, any of those technical skills is the cake, is that yellow spongy cake, and all the other stuff you add to it is the frosting, right? And you can make it look real pretty. You can have just a basic frosting, or you can have all kinds of elaborate things. That's your value add. You know, your cake is your foundation, and then your value add is going to be however decorative you want to make your cake. So I hope that makes sense. You know, so that's pretty much, you know, very large nutshell how I got to where I am today. It was pure will, determination, uh, just believing in myself. I knew that I could do this. Um, I knew, I don't know how, but I just knew because remember I read all those articles. I told you I set up all those news alerts. So I read a lot of articles about the problems in cybersecurity and, you know, how people fix things and things like that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I can do that. Like, I have those skills. I can do that. Um, so I just knew that, and this is how I presented myself in interviews and when I met people, and said, I have these library science skills that I know can be used in information security, and I know I'm right. And most people got it and were on the same page with me. I did run into some people who told me I had no business being in cybersecurity, and I'm a lady, so I'm not going to repeat the foul words that I may have said to them. But you know, most people got it, so that wasn't, you know, a problem. But you also have to be a good storyteller. You have to be able to, to sell yourself, to be able to talk about yourself. And I know some people that doesn't come very easily. You need to have what's called an elevator pitch. It's maybe 2 to 3 sentences about your skill set, because you don't really have long to talk to people. So you need to make, be bold, be brief, and be gone. You need to make an impression, be very succinct. I can give you a great example of this. Remember, I told you a couple weeks after I quit my job, I was on a plane to San Francisco, right? I was at the RSA conference. I sat in a session that was being run by at the time, he was the chief security officer for Palo Alto Networks, which, as you may know, is a very large and very well-known cybersecurity product company. Someone once called them the Maserati of cybersecurity tools. Maserati being the very expensive, flashy car. So he was giving this session about this committee that he was in charge of, called the Cybersecurity Canon, which what this group of volunteers did was that they would read cybersecurity books, write reviews about them and recommendations about them, and they were formulating a group of books that people in cybersecurity should read. And I'll share the links to that when I'm finished speaking. And so he did mention, now remember, I was a librarian, so this is right up my alley, right? This is exactly, what I wanted to hear. So he mentioned towards the end of his talk that, they do periodically have new committee members, and if anyone was interested, to let him know. So I thought to myself, I need to be the first person he sees when he's done talking. I want to make an impression. This is a perfect fit for me. So what I did was I gathered all my stuff. As he was finishing up his talk, I got everything ready so I could just jump up and go, sharpen my elbows in case I needed to elbow anyone out of the way. I'm just joking. And as soon as he was finished speaking, I made a beeline, a straight line up to him. I had my hand outstretched and I said, "Hi, I'm Tracy Mayleaf. I have a master's degree of library and information science, and you need me on your cybersecurity canon committee." You know, um, and then, long story short, 2 years later, I wound up on the committee. Um, you know, and the reason why it took 2 years is because, they're voted in for terms and things like that. So that was, I didn't get voted in the first time because nobody knew who I was. I was brand new to the industry, and I expected that. But I kept this gentleman in my network for 2 years. I would periodically check in with him. I made sure I was connected with him on social media. And then when the next opportunity came up for them to vote in new committee members, I was voted in because in that time, that 2-year period time, I built up my brand of Infosec Sherpa. I built up my network. You know, I did this, because I wanted to get more involved with information security to complement my job. So the stars eventually aligned, and I did do that committee. I am going to rejoin it. Currently, I'm not on it, but I will be rejoining it, and I'll share the links shortly. But that's a great example of having an elevator pitch, very succinctly tell someone your skill set, and why they should care. Um, believe in yourself, know how to sell your skills, and understand that everything's all kind of a part of the grand scheme here. You may not recognize all the puzzle pieces, but you know there's not a lot of people talk about luck. Luck is just the fruition of hard work, right? So you put in all the hard work and the pieces fall into place. And I know that sometimes that can be hard to see. And like I was started to say a few minutes ago, believe me, there were some times during my 1.5 year journey between the library law and information security that I did wonder, did I make the right decision? Am I doing this? That's where those time markers came into play. I would move those time markers all the time. And except for that one on December 31st, that was always in the back of my mind. So I started my first cybersecurity job 6 months before my deadline to move. So I'm very grateful, that happened. So yeah, I mean, it might not sound as, I don't know if my story sounds exciting or inspiring or boring or weird or what. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work. I don't want people to think that I just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be in cybersecurity and I just changed jobs. A lot of work went into it. And one of the reasons also that I love doing mentoring and speaking like this is because I want to demystify it. I did have people help me along the way on my journey, but things were different just a few years ago, and I did have to do a lot myself. I was out there, with a machete in the brush, hacking things down, uh, s- and and that's fine. And I accepted that role. And so sometimes you have to be a leader, and sometimes you have to be a follower. But I'm not afraid to, like I said, grab a machete and just walk into the brush and start clearing a path and figuring things out. And sometimes that's how you have to approach this. And whether it's just getting the cybersecurity job, or once you're in navigating your career, you may still need to have that mindset, and that's fine. That's just going to lead to more success for you, if you have that mindset. So I feel like I've been talking very quickly for a very long time. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee, and please either speak up or type any questions you have. Oh, I forgot to put creamer in my coffee. That is very strong.
Any questions, ladies, gents?
I want to embarrass someone real quick. I see Doreen. Hi, Doreen. She's one of my mentees from the Mentors group. I don't know if anybody else is here from Mentors, but hi, Doreen. And I don't know if any of my cyber safe ladies from Ibadan, Nigeria. Is Ibadan in the house? Nigeria in the house? Anybody?
Hi, Tracy.
I told you my goal is to show up in Africa and just go to all your homes and get home cooked meals. I'm going to go all over the continent. So while I'm waiting for people to work up the courage to ask questions, I'll share with you. So I've been to Africa once. In June of 2018, I went to South Africa. I was invited to speak at the what was it called? It was called the South Africa. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the name. I have to look it up. I actually have the swag they gave me right over there. I can't see it though. It was a South Africa digital librarian conference. So it was South African law librarians and any just general information professionals in Africa. So we met in Pretoria, and I spent the first week of the trip going to and do sightseeing. I wanted to see animals. So I went to Pilanesberg, which is a big national preserve there. So I saw all kinds of animals. I got to play with a cheetah. And that was just amazing. And then the second week was at the conference where I gave a 3-hour workshop and a keynote speech, and it was amazing. And I remember actually being a little scared to do a workshop and a talk because I still, it was only 2018, right? Remember I told you how new I was to the field. I was concerned that maybe I didn't know enough to do all this. And a South African person said to me, "Oh, we're 20 years behind on security. You're going to be fine." So we have a question. Hi, John. John's question is, should I be worried of monotony, stagnation working at a SOC? Well, I would say I feel like monotony and stagnation are two different things to be concerned about. Are you concerned about not moving up, or do you mean with your career, or do you mean how I understand how like SOC work can be monotonous? Can you clarify which one you're more concerned about, like your career or like the daily SOC life, the monotony of that? If you can just reply, John, or speak up.
Hello, hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, if you
Okay.
can just clarify your question, I'm happy to address it.
Yeah, so I recently started at a SOC and I'm finding it being a little bit too monotonous, especially when it comes to pulling reports. And mostly it's usually the same kind of, let's say, incidents. So the bulk bit of it is trying to check if there are maybe anomalies and something outside the norm. So
Okay.
now I'm looking at it in terms of, let's say, if it's someone who wants to like maybe venture into red teaming and performing pen testing, will it be like is it an entirely different path, and will I be switching path, or is it like a stepping stone into like getting to red pen testing and the like?
Okay. Yeah. So, so first of all, I wouldn't be too concerned about the monotony of it. And having worked in a SOC, I totally understand what you mean, John. Um, but I look at it this way. I look at that as skill building, and think of all the things you could do with that. Maybe you get to a point where you know the task so well, you could write a playbook for others, or you could use that knowledge to maybe share something with the end users to maybe help them better understand things. Or maybe you're seeing, this is another way to look at it. Maybe you see the same type of incident happening all the time, or maybe you see the same person all the time,
Yeah.
causing an incident. You know, how you can kind of break that monotony is that you can, as we say, think outside the box and maybe reach out to that person specifically, and and maybe help them with something. Or again, you can write instructions, and that this is the things that I did in the SOC, because I totally understand what you mean, John, that I noticed that there was this one task that all of the SOC analysts did, but everybody had a different way of doing it, and that made me absolutely bonkers. I did not like that at all. So I took it upon myself to write a playbook of how we should do this one task so that we were all on the same page. So while it was still the same monotonous task that we did, at least it was all consistent now, and that wasn't anything that anybody else did before. So again, and that's also something you can add to your own credentials. Like you need to keep track of all the things that you do, because and I'll get to the second part of your question in a second, is because that's how you use that to move into other things like red teaming. You need to show all the initiatives you took as a blue teamer. Now, specifically to your question about moving to red team, yeah, I would say that a blue team SOC analyst is actually a good foundation for a red teamer, because you have the insight of how people protect things, right? I know a lot of people like to go into, everybody. I think a lot of people enjoy red teaming because it's, it's hacking, right? It's hands on keyboard, hoodie up, dark room, hunched over a keyboard, right? Isn't that what everybody thinks red teaming is? A lot of people think it's, the sexier of the two, but think about it. If John, are you into sports at all? Are you into football, what I call soccer?
Yeah, definitely. Team
Okay,
Chelsea.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What team do you follow?
Chelsea.
Oh, boo! I'm an Everton supporter, but anyway. Okay, so think about it. So if you're a goalkeeper, right? You're familiar with how people are going to be trying to score on you, and then all of a sudden, if you become a striker, you know where, since you used to play goalkeeper, where the weak spots are, right? Does that make sense? So I mean, having those different perspectives are going to help you with blue and red team. So if you think about it from a sports analogy, if you played goalie or goalkeeper for for a couple years, and then all of a sudden you're in a position to be a scorer, you're going to know inside and out how to get that ball in that net, right? I
Yeah.
mean, does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, so definitely, take initiative at your current role to create those playbooks, or if you see a process that you think could be improved upon, just do it. Just write it up. I mean, you're not going to get in trouble for writing something up and I mean, I would hope not anyway. And then you can show it to your boss, or even if and even if, say, your boss doesn't like it, still hold on to it. You can still create a portfolio of, and maybe you go on an interview and you say, these are initiatives that I came up with. They weren't well received by my manager, but this is what I did anyway. There's no harm in that. There's no harm in having a portfolio. So I think you're doing the right thing. I understand there is monotony, but that's how you can kind of make it your own and overcome that. Any boringness is be on the lookout on how to improve processes or how to educate people. Take what you have, and make it your own. Remember, think of the cake as well. You have a bland, boring vanilla cake, right, John? Well, why don't you put some hot sauce in that frosting and mix things up a little bit? Does that help?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Go, Everton. And then Laura. Oh, my pleasure, John. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, I always find sports analogies to be useful in cybersecurity. So I apologize if some of you aren't sports fans, but that I know sports, and that's how I like to think of it. So Laura has a question. Have you ever felt like you've reached a plateau in your InfoSec job? How would you deal with that? Oh, excellent question. So I have not felt that I've reached a plateau in my InfoSec job, but I did feel like I reached a plateau in my library job, which led me to InfoSec. So the same sort of principles apply. Like what I said is that I set up Google News alerts, and I actually wrote a blog post about setting up Google News alerts, which I can share here. I have a lot of things I need to share in the when I'm done talking here. I looked at all these news alerts to see, what interested me. And so maybe you do the same thing, because maybe there's a different part of information security that you think you might want to pivot to. So maybe set up, GRC, right? The, government's, the compliance. Maybe you want to explore compliance. So maybe you start to read up on, or, compliance jobs or things like that. You kind of need to investigate your situation. So yeah, definitely hitting a plateau can be a concern. But I feel like in information security, you might hit a plateau at a specific company, but I feel like our industry, the sky's the limit, to be honest. There's so many different ways to apply security. And another thing that you could look at is different applications of security. And this is actually something I've talked about with my CyberSafe ladies in Nigeria. One of them is interested in agriculture. So I've been sending her articles specifically about how certain countries in Africa are applying cybersecurity to agricultural things. So if you have a specific industry that you're interested in, you could look at it that way. You could look at pivoting your skills to a specific industry. Transportation is a big one. Maritime, if you're into shipping, African maritime cybersecurity is huge and like on the verge of being the next big thing. Mark my words. There are so many opportunities in Africa to, all over Africa, the different industries that you can get involved with. So does that help, Laura? That, so once you reach a certain point, you need to pivot, right? And then you can, and then you can go up somewhere else. So you may need to pivot to something else. But you also might have the realization that you just don't want to do this anymore. And that's fine too. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I was completely over library science, or not library science, but library jobs. So I told you, on January 1st, 2015, I, updated my resume and my LinkedIn and all that. I actually applied to 3 librarian jobs. And I went on those interviews, and I did that because I wanted to be absolutely sure that I was okay to move on from that industry. And that's also another recommendation I make to Laura's question of, if you've reached a plateau, and if one of your considerations is, do I still even want to be doing security? again, maybe go on some interviews or look at job postings. And if you've kind of lost that fire in your heart that you want to do security, then yeah, maybe you need to move into something else and just be a security advocate, not a full-time security person. So there's many different ways to handle that. And again, it's all kind of what's up in your heart and where you feel. But I definitely am a big advocate for making sure you're really done with something before moving on. Another example of this is when I was in high school. My junior year, it was I had the opportunity to either take French. I had been taking French for a couple of years, so to take another year of French, or to spend 1 year doing an early childhood education course. And when I was 16 or 17 years old, I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. I did that early childhood education course in high school for a year and never wanted to be in a classroom ever again. So while I did regret losing a year of French, I was content that I never wanted to pursue early childhood education. And I'd rather have gone through that at a free public high school rather than go to university and waste tuition money in these early childhood education classes that I quickly realized I wanted nothing, no part of. And like my Ruby on Rails example I gave earlier, if you're at a plateau, you need to pivot, and you need, and if you decide that you want to move on to something, just make sure you're ready to move on, because that would be kind of difficult, right? To leave the industry and then have to come back and start all over again. It's possible, but just make sure you're content before you move on, whether you stay in Infosec or you leave Infosec. If you're going to be leaving something, a job or an industry or something, just make sure you're ready to move on. And if you feel like you're not, then just see what else is out there that you can apply your security skills to. So it was a very long answer, Laura. I hope that answered it.
Thanks, Tracy. That did.
And let's see, Eve said, Eve wrote, I like your story, your journey, you're motivating someone to keep trying to be a person. What are some of the pointers you can share to your younger self? Oh, I like you, Eve, but I hate these questions. My younger self. Yeah. Okay, so I would have told my younger self to have pursued computers and tech sooner, but I don't have a time machine. I can't go back. I'm going to look up this quote because I always mess it up and I don't want to mess it up. And this is, okay. I don't know if you know Arthur Ashe. He's passed on now, but he was a African-American tennis player here in America. He has a famous quote where he has, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I like to mention that more so than talking about to my younger self, because I just feel like I can't do anything about that now. So I'd rather just tell people, you know what, this is where you've been dropped. Use those transferable skills and move forward. So I would just definitely, follow interests. If you're interested in tech, follow that. But don't look behind you too much, because you can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do. Another example of this is I used to agonize over this when I was making my career change of I have so much to catch up on tech-wise. I have so much knowledge to catch up on. I'm never going to catch up. Am I in too deep? What's going on? And I mentioned this to someone who was a more senior security person. And he said, I said, I have these concerns that I have, the learning curve is too steep. What have I done? And, I'm really worried that I can't learn it all. And he said to me, first of all, you're never going to learn it all. So just stop trying to do that. And then he said to me something that I'll never forget. He said, I'm actually envious of you. And I'm like, what do you mean envious of me? He has like these 25 years of tech experience. And he said, technology essentially turns itself completely over every 3 years. And he said, I have so much outdated knowledge that I still have to work, as hard as you to learn all this. He's like, but you get to learn it from, here, where he's like learning it from down here and then trying to meet there. So, the way he explained that to me, it did make me feel better. You're never going to learn anything. You're never going to learn everything, not anything, everything. You're never going to learn everything. And again, you start where you are and you go from there. So I hope that helps to answer the question. Like I said, I don't like to dwell on those because you can't change the past. So I'd rather have people just realize how you can harness your past, like with transferable skills and things like that to move forward. So I hope that wasn't a cop out, Laura, but I hope I just don't want to see people dwelling on the past because you can't do anything about it. So just, but what you can bring with you is, these life lessons. There was a movie maybe 10, 15 years ago called Slumdog Millionaire. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but spoiler alert. So in a very general description of the movie, this gentleman was on a game show and he won money on the game show because all the questions that he was asked then reminded him of something from his past. So the whole movie was like a bunch of flashbacks of things. So that's how I also tell people to approach their careers of you have something in your past that is a skill that you can use today. It might not be that obvious to you at first, but you'll think of it, and that's how you can, reconcile your past self with your current and future self is by harnessing those skills and the knowledge that you've already accumulated.
I'll get your time machine in the fairy land.
Oh yeah, Laura put a nice quote in here. The best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago. The second best time is now. Exactly. Yeah, like, but I did it too. I fell down this mental rabbit hole of, regretting that I didn't get into tech sooner. I won't bore you with all those stories, but yeah, I used to spend a lot of time in the computer lab, at school, when I was younger, and it never even occurred to me to have a career in tech because at the time, there really weren't a lot of women, in the computer lab. I was often the only woman in the computer lab with all guys. And, yeah, I didn't have the confidence then as I do now. But yeah, at the time, it did kind of bother me and it did kind of make me feel like an outcast. And I also, I didn't have a computer at home. So I had to go somewhere to use a computer. And a lot of times you meet up with people who like, oh, I've been, coding since I was 5 because we had a computer. I'm like, well, I had to go somewhere to find a computer. I didn't have one. So everybody starts at different levels. And this is why I mentioned early on was, the reason why I like doing mentoring and talking to groups is I want to do my best to try and level that playing field for everyone. We don't all start in the same place. So let's do what we can to try and make it a little bit more level, or at least, build some bridges to help people maybe scoot across and catch up so that we can all go forward together.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Sure. Well, I realize I hope I'm not keeping anybody from going to sleep or dinner or anything.
No.
You're
not keeping them.
While people are thinking of questions, let me grab some of those links real quick. So the one was the cybersecurity canon, which is the book. Let me add. So here's all right, so this is the cybersecurity canon. This is the books. So if you want to take a look at books that you should read, some of them are fiction, some of them are nonfiction. It's all over the place. But like The Cuckoo's Egg is a great book to read. I actually read this on vacation which yes, I am a nerd, but two, it reads like a spy novel. It was really exciting. So yeah, it's about computers and technology and security, but it reads like a spy novel. So that's kind of cool. Oh, my blog post about Google alerts. Was there anything else I said that I would post? Can somebody remember? And in general, my blog has a lot of information, which again, you'll get the link in a second. Any other questions? Oh, I have to do a shameless plug for something in a second, but let me put this here. Where is my... No questions? Somebody has to have questions. Okay, here we go. Using Google Alerts.
Hi. I have another question.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is a bit biased, but I just wanted you to like share with me how you transitioned from a SOC team to a security researcher.
Oh, how I went from the SOC to a security researcher?
Yeah.
I applied for a security researcher job. I wish I had a better answer. I guess a better answer I could give you is so remember a couple minutes ago I was telling you to kind of make the best of your situation and maybe write playbooks or things like that. I took it upon myself in my SOC jobs to also do research to show that skill that I already had. So an example of this, when I started in my first SOC job, there was someone in a different SOC who would do a daily newsletter for the team of cybersecurity news we should be aware of. And he did a terrible job with it. It was really, it wasn't good. And I turned to my boss one day and I said, out of frustration, I said, that I can do this 100 times better, right? And he said, yeah, I know, but it's kind of political and he's already been doing it and everything. So then a miracle happened. Then he left the company. So as soon as he left the company, it was all mine because I had demonstrated the interest and I had, done research and current events sort of projects on my own. I had taken my own initiative to do that. So when, then it was mine. Then then all of a sudden I ran the newsletter and I improved it. And to the point where one of the higher level executives actually gave me a company award for it because I completely turned the newsletter around and made it actually useful. and yeah, so I hope that helps. So you sometimes you have to advocate for yourself by doing some extra things to demonstrate your knowledge. So where that came in is, so then my next job in security, I also incorporated my research skills. And then when I was looking for, and when I heard that Krebs Samos was hiring security researchers, I made my case. I told them what I did. So this one's a little difficult for me to answer because I had 15 years of research experience to draw from. So I'm not sure if it's exactly going to pertain to your situation, John. But again, do you see what I mean, though, is that I harnessed these skills that I already had and advocated for myself to demonstrate my abilities. And then that's when I was able to get through to people of, oh, she does know what she's doing. She's good at this. Yes, we want her for that. Does that help at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, sorry, I don't want to mislead anyone, but yeah, keep in mind, I said I had 15 years of this professional library experience. So that's a little bit different than if you're just starting out. But there are still ways that you can advocate for yourself in your role. And yeah, again, you may need to do stuff on your own, John. You may need to start your own, maybe you need to start your own blog or something like that. You might need to do something to to demonstrate those skills.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Anybody else? Daisy asked, how do you navigate a job that doesn't meet your expectations? Oh, that is an interesting question, Daisy. Well, I mean, obviously I think the easiest response is, well, then you might want to look around. Well, actually, first I would go, figure out what isn't meeting your expectations. And okay, so yeah, start here. First, either write it down or just go through your head what isn't meeting your expectations and determine if that's something that that can be fixed. um Maybe something is just a matter of speaking to your manager, um and you know and maybe you'll be surprised, maybe that's something that can be fixed. Yeah, is it something that can't be fixed? So I would probably start there first, figure out which item or items are not meeting your expectations and whether or not they even can be rectified. And if you think that they can be, if you by talking to someone and you talk to someone and they're still not rectified, then yeah, then maybe you need to look around for another position or something. But just like I was saying to John, you do need to advocate for yourself. So you do need to raise these failed expectations to someone, because there's a chance that they can be fixed. So, for example, when I was at one of my jobs, I explained that I wanted to do more research. That yes, I thought that I would be able to use my research skills more when I was at the New York Times, and so I mentioned that and a couple times, and then that wound up getting me put on special projects to use my research experience. And I worked with like another department and also special projects within my own department. So you do need to advocate for yourself and speak up, and get a realistic timetable of when you can expect those changes. So that's what happened to me, is that no, I totally get what you're saying of, yeah, I wanted to do more research. I wasn't getting it, but I started to create opportunities and I advocated for myself and I kept mentioning it. And sure enough, things came my way. And if you do all that and it's still not going anywhere, then yeah, then maybe you need to look around. But first, really put your finger on what it is, because if it can't be changed, then you need to do something more dramatic. But if it can be, and it might be surprising, you might think to yourself it can't be changed, but you need to talk with someone who might have the power to change it. Does that help at all, Daisy?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Oh, sure. All right, we're getting a little late here and I need to put my turkey in the oven. So any other questions or comments or whatever? Oh, and my shameless plug on it. So I put the links in here. So one thing I wanted to mention to you all is again, so my visit to South Africa 2 years ago made a big impact on me. And what I have enjoyed doing is, let me put the link here. I create a weekly cybersecurity news roundup of African cybersecurity and tech news. So I put the link in there. I try to do it weekly. It's not always exactly a week, because honestly, sometimes there's just not enough news. I try to do 10 stories. So I do a couple different news roundups, and one I do specifically for Africa because it's an interest of mine and I want to know what's going on there. So please take a look at that. But yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of opportunities in cybersecurity, for someone like myself who has a history degree and a library science degree. But you need to advocate for yourself. You need to have a firm grasp of what your skills and interests are, because and creating that human network. You want people to be able to talk about you positively when you're not in the room. You want others to advocate for you. So make sure you have that human network, so that if people are deciding on a job and like, oh no, I've heard of Daisy, she's doing a lot of great work, that kind of stuff can help you with your career and your job. So I think that's So yeah, I'm going to share my LinkedIn and my Twitter. If you do connect with me on LinkedIn, I ask to please put a note in about how you know me. I don't like to accept requests if people don't put the note in, because otherwise I'm like, I don't know how you know me. And so leave a note. And even if it's just like, hey, I attended your She Hacks Kenya talk, that's fine. That's fine. And that's just some context. But otherwise, I'm also on Twitter as Infosec Sherpa. Getting that link for a second. But I mean, I hope this was helpful. I hope this wasn't like boring for you all. I don't think that my story is that exciting, but a lot of people do and ask me to talk about it. I just wanted a better life for myself. I wasn't happy where I was. I reached that plateau that was mentioned earlier in library world. I had done everything that I could. I thought anyway, and there wasn't anything left that interested me. And I was also concerned about longevity because, we had a recession here in the US that cost a lot of librarians their jobs. And I began to worry, am I going to be out of a job along with a bunch of other librarians in the same town of Philadelphia trying to vie for all the same jobs? And I didn't like that future for myself. So I wanted to change it. And I was aware of the work that I had to put in. And that's the other thing I want to stress is I see a lot of, I don't want to pick on young folks, but I see a lot of young folks these days with the impression of that they can just snap their fingers and appear in a cybersecurity job. It doesn't really work that way. You do need to put in time, and you do need to, you need to understand the technology. And you need to show some good faith that you're willing to learn. That's where those certificates come in. You need to show that you have the ability to learn. And I did go again. I admit this is my third job in cybersecurity, and in what, like a short period of time. But the difference is I was able to get another job really quickly, whereas I just know that in library world that it wouldn't have been so quick. So I don't have any regrets about the change that I made, but I just want people to be realistic that there is work that has to be done and continuous improvement. You still need to keep learning. But I think it's worthwhile. I believe in a concept. It's called tikkun olam. I'm not a very religious person, but it's an idea in Judaism that you want to heal the world, repair the world. And that's just kind of the mindset that I take, is that every day I'm going to try to do, at least one good thing, that try to help security in the world. And by in the world is if it's just like one end user, then that fulfills that. Or if it's something bigger like this, like speaking to people, halfway around the world from me, that's just the principle that I try to live my life by. I put the turn in there again. I don't see this as a religious thing, so I don't want anybody to be offended or anything. It's just a generic principle that I follow. And your own faith might have something similar to it. But yeah, I feel like my desire to protect and help people is what drives me. I just want to help and feed
Thank you.
people. And I like to
Yeah.
cook, and I like to cook for way too many people. So I wish I could all have you over for Thanksgiving, because my husband said, how the two of us going to eat all this food? So I just want to feed people and protect them from cybersecurity problems. That's all I want to do.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We definitely,
Sure.
I think everyone here wants to try your food someday. I know I do.
I know. I'd love to have you all over. And oh shoot, Doreen knows. Doreen, what's that Kenyan dish that you're going to teach me how to make? I always forget the name of it. It's the pilau. Pilau. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I almost bought a dress. I don't know, Doreen, if I told. There was a dress that had all the ingredients of pilau on it. And I waited too long to buy it because I emailed the store, and it's this it's an African dress shop that's online, but they sell in America. And yeah, they have a dress that has all the ingredients of palau on it. I'm like, I want to rock that dress so bad. And I think I waited too long. I don't think they have it anymore, so I'm sad. But yeah, and so I want to make palau. I've already made jollof. I already made I didn't the Nigerian dish, West African dish. Am I pronouncing it right? Jollof. That I tried that once. I need to try it again. I don't think I perfected it. So I'm trying, and I think a lot of you missed earlier. I'm doing a cookie exchange with some friends, and I decided to make cookies of Africa. So I'm doing my research, and yeah, Laura, let me know if about the Kenyan cookies, because I have North African cookies squared away. I have South African cookies squared away, but I need like central parts. So I think I need some Nigerian and Kenyan cookies to round out my cookies. So
Yeah, I'll share that with you on Twitter.
Yeah. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. So yeah, like I said, I just I love speaking to you all. I love helping you the best that I can. I try to be a good mentor, and but no, I very much care about the African InfoSec community. I think you all have tremendous opportunities to really just soar in your careers. There's really so many opportunities there. Like I said, if it's not with a tech company, there's so many things that you can do for maritime, for agriculture, all kinds of stuff. So sky's the limit, African InfoSec. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. This has been very, very insightful. As I mentioned earlier, we we had been planning to have you on since I think 2016, and finally it happened. Finally it happened, and we're so excited, and that you came here for our very last community session of the year, just closing it off for us. It's an honor. So thank you for showing up, and thank you to everyone who showed up today. Yeah, and thank you for everyone who showed up for all our sessions during the year. It has been a year of growth. I think a lot of us learned so much, and hopefully the InfoSec industry in Kenya keeps growing as much as it has this year and last year, especially during the COVID period. We've seen a lot of growth, and I hope to see more of that next year. And Tracy has given you her socials, so please connect with her. She's interact with her. She's very social. And yeah, let us all grow together. Eve, do you have anything?
Not much from my side, Laura, but thank you so much, Tracy. I really enjoyed. I always enjoy listening to you and the sessions that you normally carry out for the different ladies in this chapter. I think the last one was the one for Tanzania. The lady, you remember that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so nice having you with us, and I wish we have more coming.
I know, Mita. I'd love to, and I appreciate that you don't make me get up too early. So
even better.
Yeah, no, this is great. And so please reach out, and I'm happy to speak again. I hope this was useful. Thank you to Daisy and John and everyone else who asked questions. And but let me get on with Thanksgiving. I got to get that turkey in the oven. I'm serious. I need to get my turkey in the oven. So.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Happy
Holidays. Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Happy holidays. Bye.